This is Total Retail Tech Insights.
The content retail executives need to optimize their use of technology throughout their organizations.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Tech Insights. I'm Joe Keenan, Editor-in-Chief of Total Retail, and I'm joined on today's episode by Melissa Wong, the CEO and co-founder of Zipline. We're going to talk to Melissa a little bit about the Zipline business, as well as its recent partnership with Total Retail to produce the 2022 Retail Technology Report. Thanks for joining me today, Melissa.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So as I mentioned, Melissa, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about Zipline, but before we do that, tell us a little bit about your career. I know you have a history in the retail industry and kind of the story that led from that retail experience to your founding of Zipline.
Great. Thanks so much, Joe. I often joke, I think among some of the tech founders that I'm a little bit of an unconventional CEO in the sense that I actually, to your point, I really did spend quite a long time in retail, and I never thought that I'd actually be a CEO of a tech company. Retail, maybe because I'd spent so long there, but not necessarily tech. And the reason why Zipline exists is that within retail, I struggled for so many years trying to get the stores to do the things that we were asking them to do. So at the end of the quarter, we were taking markdowns or putting up marketing, changing merchandising displays, updating policies, rolling out different initiatives. And I have to tell you, time after time after time, some brand president or head of stores would walk into the stores, would see that something hadn't been done, and had asked the stores, hey, how come you didn't do this thing? It's a huge push for the company. It's brand building. It's critical to our success. What happened? Where's the fall down? And the store would just say, I didn't see the memo, or too much communication in too many different places. And as a result of that feedback about the stores really struggling to keep track of all of the things and really not having a central place to read communications and be engaged with the brand, that's really where the seed of Zipline was born. And so that's what we do today. We essentially enable retailers. We help them enable their field teams to be successful in putting up all of the initiatives and making sure things get done. We really reduce the fire hose of information that's going to stores, and we automate some of the manual work so store teams can do more with less. And we do that while connecting them with the brand vision so that there's more engagement from a team perspective around why are we as a company doing the things we're doing, and how do we as a brand connect with each other to make an impact both within the company as well as in our customers' lives.
Yeah, I think that's a great way, to explain that, how Zipline is helping retailers today. You talked about a common problem that you heard from so many retail executives, probably experienced it in your own retail career.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's often the genesis of so many companies founding is it's helping to solve a problem that somebody has personally experienced. So thanks for talking about that and kind of providing a little background for the audience. I also want to get into, I alluded to the fact that Zipline recently partnered with Total Retail for the annual Retail Technology Report. So tell us a little bit about that report and why Zipline wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, so Joe, I know you touched a little bit about it when you said kind of like coming from the industry. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen with COVID, coming out of COVID, is really the acceleration of change and brands having to figure out what's the new normal. And I know we're all kind of tired of the new normal, but I do see operating changes in the operating landscapes for how retailers are doing business and how they're meeting customers where the customers are at, right? Whether at home, how they receive product, it's on the curb, is it in lockers, et cetera. And I think it's just a lot more complex. And so when we partnered with Total Retail, it was really to get an understanding of how are retailers navigating technology spend and meeting customers in this new way of working, right? In a more interconnected way that customers want to go online, in store. Retailers always promise to deliver on the omnichannel promise. I think we rarely did, but now it's really happening. And I don't think that the path is as well defined as it has in the past, right? For the past couple decades, retailers have always operated off of what has worked in the past and built on kind of tribal knowledge. And I really think that we're seeing a different way of thinking and working. And I don't think that anyone has the right answer. I think that a lot of brands are trying different things, and we'll find things out within the next, 5-10 years. But right now is really the time of experimentation. And in partnering with Total Retail, the goal is to find out, what are the key trends on what people are doing, and how can we be a part of the conversation and help brands be successful, both in terms of their own implementations, as well as having awareness about how others are approaching it. So at Zipline, one of the things that we know is that no matter what the answer is for how brands operate, the store is going to be an even more critical part, right? You see it with micro fulfillment, you see it with ship from stores, BOPIS, curbside pickup. They play a more key role, both in terms of the brand experience of a customer, right, and the authentic community touch point, as well as even more of a, significant part of the logistics piece, right, shipping it out to customers. So when we think, and when we look at the landscape, ultimately we want to better understand not only the retail tech landscape, but also what will the impact be on the physical store experience, and how can we best enable that as a solution.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things to emerge from the report, and I want to call out, is we looked at current technology spend and where solutions that retailers are investing in present day, and also look a little bit into the future as to where they may be looking to invest going forward, and how the store experience fits into that equation is one of the things that we talk a little bit about in the report. I'm going to have you address a little more as the experts at Zipline, but I'm interested to get some of your takes, Melissa, and just some of the key findings to emerge from the report.
Yeah, and I think, people can take a deep dive, but at the highest level, there were really three things that stood out to me, right? And this takes into account, like where we've come from in the past, couple decades. But first, it was really interesting that spending is up in technology across the board, right? So, 74% so that they were increasing spend, 23% remaining the same, 3% decrease. I think that might not be expected coming out of COVID, where everyone really has been trying to, juggle a lot of spend. But what that signals to me from a spend perspective is that almost everyone knows that the way that consumers buy and what they expect has fundamentally changed. And we need to meet them where they're at. How do you move your business more agilely? And the key to that is better technology and investment. So I think that even though I expected technology spend to increase, just like the percentage of it was validating. I think the second thing that really stood out to me was retailers are betting on more innovative technology. And so when you look at retailers really looking at AI, so 26%, and automation, this to me is a different trend than we've seen in the past, where people are a little bit more hesitant to change. And to me, this really signals a brand's willingness to invest in more nascent technologies, more innovative technologies to get ahead. People are willing to try new things. They're willing to take more risks. And while I think, maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we used to rely on legacy technologies to just do the job. Now, to me, the findings show people are really wanting to not do the job, but rethink how can we do business differently. And then I think the third thing, Joe, to your point around the role of stores. So while nearly 1 in every 4 retailers are planning to increase technology budgets for their IT teams, only about 1 in 25 are really allocating additional tech spend to their stores. And this really makes me think, how are the stores with this amount of spend and this volume of new initiatives, how are stores really supposed to implement all of these numbers of initiatives and transformational changes when no one's setting them up for success, right? So when you look at all of the different change management components, all of the different pieces about rollouts and customer interactions, a lot of these things come down to and have a key store piece. So I'm wondering, are retailers underestimating what's really needed to pull off all of these investments and underestimating the role of the store?
Yeah, and those are three really salient points in findings and from the report. I'm going to take it a step further, Melissa, and based on what you talked about, kind of that overall increase in tech spending, two, they're really betting on the power of AI and how that can transform their businesses, and then third, kind of setting up their store employees and their store organization for success with all of these technology initiatives that are being put into place. Tell us a little bit about the implications then for retailers, those that are reading this report. What should they be thinking about?
So, Joe, not to pitch overtly one of your events, but at the World's Conference, which was fantastic, I think one of the retail executives, chief digital officer, was really talking about this concept of connected commerce, right? It's not just omni-channel, it's not just having channels, but it's how do these channels connect with each other? How does a customer's interaction go? It's not a linear way. It's not just on one channel, but how do you go in between store, online, back to store, seeing shipping? How do you really ultimately use digital to enhance a fundamentally human experience? And then how do you use humans to enhance the digital? And so for me, when I think about the future of the retail store, it's a lot more about this integration of different channels, this connected future, and it's also more measurable. And also, what's interesting is I do think from a store people perspective, it will also require a different type of person to show up and a different kind of mindset. So recently, someone on my team posted an article around a McKinsey article talking about that retail hours requiring social and emotional skills and technology skills are expected to increase 32% and 64% respectively. And then the number of hours requiring physical and manual skills are expected to drop. And I think this is really beginning to signal kind of like a tide change in the kind of role of the store in the sense of community building and authenticity combined with some of the more tactical pieces.
With that in mind, Melissa, you just talked a little bit about the changing role of the store. Do you have any examples of some retailers they're doing particularly well with in this regard?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about like our customers, our customer base, and I look at what our brand Lululemon has been doing about really capturing community, really, and becoming known for something more than a product. It's really kind of like a way of life. I think that when you look at the role of a store, it's not just going to be transactional. It's really as a rallying spot and a place of experience and community. And I think Lululemon's done that really well. When I think about Sephora, they have done an incredible job about being an intersection of digital and human, with apps, with pickup lockers, classes, just education. And it's education that's online and in store, and it melds seamlessly, right? They're doing an incredible job about helping the consumer where they're at in the way that they're most comfortable. I even think about kind of like their shopping baskets, like, hey, I want to be approached, I think are in black, and I don't want to be approached in red. There's just like a lot of ways that they're working to support the customer in real life and then online. And then ultimately American Eagle, when you think, about their use of the metaverse, standing for inclusivity, the messaging really resonates with Gen Z, and stores are an integral part of their brand.
Yeah, those are some great examples. I want to follow up and talk a little bit about Zipline and its product and how it can help retailers create more efficient and better performing store locations. You just called out three great customers and three really different examples of how these retail organizations are utilizing physical storefronts. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts, maybe some tips for the audience as they go about trying to create better performing stores.
Yeah, I mean, at Zipline, we really look at better performing stores under 4 pillars, right? And those pillars also really support the idea of agility, right? If you're a good performing store, it shouldn't it shouldn't be so hard, and it should be able to be replicated across the fleet. So our 4 pillars really are around better store operations. So, that's pillar 1, really being able to automate kind of like day-to-day tasks and really bring more clarity into the priorities of the organization from an operational lens. For us, our second pillar really is around fast feedback. So that can be done through real-time messaging, two-way communication. It really helps inform high performance as a brand, because when you think about, for example, a merchant having a conduit to talk with the store to ask why a test SKU is lower than sales than a similar style, it enables the organization as a whole to just be better informed and brands will be able to marry the qualitative feedback with the quantitative. Our third pillar is really around employee engagement. And I think that that's essential now, especially as we look to retain teams and top talent, and the hiring crunch is real. And employee engagement at Zipline really gives employees a better way to connect with each other and with the brand. And that really helps shine a spotlight onto who are high-performing individuals or high-performing store locations. What are they doing to really drive that? And employee engagement supports that in a more fluid way. And then finally, our last pillar is around data insights, right? So obviously, everyone is looking towards more data to drive more effectiveness across the organization and in sales and results. And for us, it's that visibility into what's happening in stores is essential for executives and upper field and cross-functional business partners to really be able to hindsight and say, are the decisions I'm making, are they effective? Did the stores actually do the thing? As I look at traffic and I look at conversion, and I look at, our sales numbers, did the stores do the thing? Did they not do the thing? How can I move some of the levers? And so for us, the data and insights, the fast feedback, the employee engagement, and the better store operations are what will ultimately drive better store performance.
And then for those in our audience, we've really just kind of scratched the surface in terms of the conversation around the 2022 Retail Technology Report from Zipline and Total Retail. There's so much data and insight and valuable takeaways for the reader. For those that want to learn a little bit more about it and how they can go about getting it, tell our audience what they should do.
Right. I mean, you obviously scratch the surface. There's a lot of really helpful info in there. So you can access the full report on our website at getzipline.com. And while you're there, I just say, take a look around, see what we're about as a company. And for us, though, the best thing is really talking to people who use Zipline. So we are really fortunate to be able to work with over 75 of the best retail brands in the world. So if you want to learn about Zipline, go into a Lush store, Sephora store, the Fresh Market, Warby Parker, American Eagle, and ask teams, because I think for us, when you talk about technology and you talk about spend, the biggest piece is, will your users use it, right? Is it helpful for your stores to invest in a store technology? Does a store want to use it? Because if they don't actually want to use it, you're not going to get the ROI regardless of what it is. So all the technology, I think there's a trend in the consumerization of enterprise technology, And we've built with that philosophy in mind from the very start.
Yeah, that kind of idea that many retailers and organizations are spending on technology just because they seemingly think they have to, because their competitor is launching something, or
Mhm.
do the kind of the due diligence to find out what is the application for my business, how will my users actually use this piece of technology or software, and the impact that it can have on your business. Kind of think about that, and to your point, then that's how Zipline tries to serve its customers.
Totally.
Great. One other thing I would note, Total Retail and Zipline will actually be partnering up again. Zipline will be one of our sponsors at the Total Retail Tech event coming up this September, September 13th through the 15th, taking place in Nashville. So we'll be looking forward to seeing Melissa and the Zipline team at that event coming up in early fall. So wanted to take the opportunity to thank Melissa Wong, again, the co-founder and CEO of Zipline, for joining us on this episode of Total Retail Tech Insights. Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks so much for having me, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Tech Insights is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Tech Insights.